Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday evening. There we go, Dominique's there. And for the next session in our little venture through your body and its sign languages, because I think it's got more than one language that it tells us from time to time. So I'm going to share my screen over here and get going. And then I'm going to shrink everybody down so that I can see what's happening. And see me happening. Okay, there we go. There's Sally. Right. Okay. And so we go into the next part. Today, as we go through, we started at the head. We've worked our way through the neck and the arms and the hands, and now we're going to the back and the legs, which are our locomotive devices. Bones are living tissue and flexible. I don't know if you're aware of that, but people tripping and falling shouldn't be breaking. They should be bouncing. Obviously, the older we get, the less we bounce, but bones are still pretty flexible. And this is what bones look like. And as I often tell my patients, if you cut through a healthy bone, it should look like the inside of a crunchy chocolate. If you chop through an osteoporotic or an unhealthy bone, and osteoporosis is just a big fancy word because osteo means bone and porosis means holes. So it's very porous. So if you cut that through that, it looks almost like the inside of an Aero chocolate. Like every other tissue in the body, bones require nutrients. The more complete and consistent the essential nutrients, the healthier and denser the bones will be, because our bones should be strong. And if you have fallen and broken anything, you will find that after the initial rest period, they tell you to start putting some weight on that bone to try and strengthen it and stress it and strengthen it. Wear and tear in the bones and joints usually begins in the spine and the legs, because that's what carries our weight daily. If you think about it, when you're walking, you've got gravity pushing down, you've got the floor pushing up, and the two meet bang in the middle around your pelvis area, lower back. So at the upper end of the legs, pelvis, and lower back. Poor diet not only weakens these tissues, but can also promote weight gain, which then places undue stress on the back, hips, and knees. Because if you think about it, we are designed to stand up straight. In order to do that, we activate our core muscle, which gets our bodies upright. Now, if your center of gravity moves from just above your pelvis because of tummy, if you think of somebody who's pregnant, or you watch these guys with the bass drums, they tend to arch their backs to a certain extent. That changes their center of gravity and allows them to stand up straight. But by doing that, you're putting stress on your lower back as well. And these are normally the areas where you're going to find a lot of wear and tear. These are the main joints that you're going to find wear and tear. The muscles in the legs are the largest in the human body, and they are there to keep us upright and to obviously mobilize well. And nutrient deficiencies which affect these muscles will often be indicated by cramping, pain, or leg weakness. And the ability to move is one of life's greatest gifts. And if you don't think so, try and break a leg or a hip or land up in a wheelchair and see how difficult life actually is. As soon as you sprain an ankle, break an ankle, and you suddenly have to rely on crutches, you realize how much we take our movement for granted. Okay. Learn to cherish the ability to exercise and do it frequently to preserve your optimal health. And this is the thing that frustrated me the most with the lockdown last year, was because they said, stay at home and don't move. And yet those are the two most essential things for our health. Now we're going into back pain, and this is usually pain in the lower back. Obviously, if you've fallen and had a fracture higher up, you're going to have pain there, but most back pain you will find lower back area. And these are the sort of things that I deal with on an almost daily basis. Not always fractures, but people complaining of sore backs. And as you can see with these pictures, you get what's called a herniated disc, which leads to a compressed spinal nerve. And often you'll have pain running down your legs, radiating in that area. But it could also be your kidneys. So not all back pain is stress-related or fracture-related. It could also be your kidneys. But I had a lady in yesterday who she had been an undertaker in a previous life, and she said she had lifted a body that was over 200 kilos, and she heard her back give. Well, that was a few years ago. She's still suffering now. Other types of injuries would involve falling, sitting badly like I'm doing right now, frequent bending forward. And this happens with people who spend a lot of time on computers. And then also degenerative conditions like your osteoporosis, your arthritis, and that sort of thing. Back pain is a leading cause of visits to health professionals, as well as being a major factor involved in the ability to work. And having a back that's out of commission, for want of any better terminology, is one of the most common things that causes people to be retrenched from work due to, or being boarded from work because of health issues. Quite often you'll find it in people who do a lot of heavy lifting, like your ambulance drivers, your undertakers, your nurses. Those are all, also your construction workers. They all take major pounding in their back. Cod liver oil is a rich source of vitamins A and D. Both of these are necessary for healthy bones. There's a very good story about where our cod liver oil and vitamin A came from in Neolife, and that was Don Pickett, who had an old war injury. And somebody had met up with him somewhere along the line. He wore a brace for about 10 years. It's called a chairback brace, and it's a brace that I'm familiar with, but it's not a fun thing to have to wear because it's hard and uncomfortable. And he used that for about 10 years because they said it was that or surgery. And he didn't want surgery. And the chiropractor said to him, take a tablespoon of cod liver oil, put it in some warm milk at night, and you drink that every night. And he said, yeah, how does that work? He said, do you want to get out of the brace or not? And Don Pickett said, yes, please. He said, do what I tell you. 3 days later, he woke up pain-free for the first time in 10 years. A week later, he got rid of the brace, and he never wore it again. So don't ask how it works. Know it works. Back pain may be caused by a weakening of the bones and muscles of the back, or by putting excessive strain on them. As I said, through lifting incorrectly, through falling, twisting, all those sorts of things can cause problems. A common cause of excessive sprain and strain on the bones and muscles of the lower back is unreasonable weight gain. And again, imagine the bass drum or the pregnancy. That is what we're calling unreasonable weight gain. A good weight loss program is good, but it does not supply the nutrients needed to build and maintain healthy bones. So if you're not giving your bones the nutrients that it needs, you can lose as much weight as you need to, you're still going to end up with back problems. Bones starved of good nutrition become weaker, and you start to lose bone density from about the age of 23 to 25, and you don't regain it in a hurry. The natural tendency with back pain is to avoid exercise and movement when the back hurts. Logical, not always a good thing. There is exercise and there is correct exercise. And the correct exercise will often reduce the pain. And for the correct exercises, I would suggest that you consult with a physiotherapist and or a biokineticist who are trained in back injuries to guide you in the correct manner. One of the things is Pilates exercises, and this was developed specifically for back problems where anybody can do them because it does not require heavy lifting or heavy weights or anything nasty. It is simply a series of stretching exercises that you can do. But you need somebody who's trained to show you the correct manner. Because if you do it incorrectly, you're going to hurt yourself. And as I said, the best people to consult on correct exercise are physiotherapists. I'm saying chiropractors over here, but I would also include biokineticists. Several factors contribute to weakening of the bones or bone loss. A diet high in acid foods and beverages weakens bones. So think junk food, think sodas, that sort of thing. The body uses minerals from the bones to buffer and excrete excess acids in the diet. And when mummies are pregnant, they've got a little parasite inside of them, and it has a skeleton that's developing. And that little skeleton needs minerals, specifically calcium. And if mommy is not putting it in her body through her diet, that little parasite is going to suck it from her bank, which is her skeleton, which is why women often end up with back problems and bone problems because they're not supplementing sufficiently well the correct nutrients during pregnancies. Alkaline foods, such as fruits and veggies, are generally high in bone building and sustaining minerals. Acid foods, such as meats, grains, sugar, and sodas, provide little in the way of beneficial minerals, but considerable acid must be buffered and excreted. So we're not saying you can't eat meat, grain, etc., but limit it. All good things need to be in limited quantities. There's some examples of your acidic foods as well as your alkaline foods. It's quite a long list, so I'm not going to get into that because of time. Eating more alkaline foods or supplementing with alkaline minerals has been demonstrated to reduce symptoms of lower back pain. Suggestions, as per Dr. Jim McAfee: consume adequate water to prevent dehydration. Also, by drinking sufficient water, that helps to hydrate your cartilage, which you will find between every bone, and that helps with flexibility as well. I would suggest filtered water, not always the water that comes out of the taps, because as we said in previous sessions, there's quite often a lot of fluoride and other junk, and if you're down here on the lower south coast, mud coming out of your taps. Increase your fruits and vegetables in the diet. If you're not getting it in the diet, supplement. Supplement with alkaline minerals, including calcium and magnesium. And I would suggest our multi-mineral for this. Because with your multi-mineral, you're getting a very good broad spectrum of minerals, which are chelated and in the correct doses. And then also supplement with salmon oil or eat salmon. Obviously, here in this country, salmon is quite expensive and quite rare, but your cold water caught salmon, I know in places like Scotland and the UK, salmon is a very common wild caught fish and it's very good. In this country, I would suggest sticking with your salmon oil because it's a purer form. We don't know where the salmon come from in a lot of cases, and farmed salmon are usually significantly more toxic than wild salmon. And salmon, as we know, is probably one of your best anti-inflammatories that you're going to get. Take a tablespoon or the equivalent in capsule form of cod liver oil with warm milk at bedtime. Capsules make it more pleasant and protect the oils from oxidation. One of the conditions we see over here is called bowed legs or rickets. I also see a similar condition called Blount's in children. The legs are bowed or bent, and the bones and muscles are weak and often have a pigeon chest that comes along with it. Bowed legs are a classic sign of rickets or vitamin D deficiency. And the USA is experiencing a tidal wave of vitamin D deficiency as children and adults consume less vitamin D fortified foods and spend less time outside. And sadly, kids are no longer kids because they spend more time inside from a safety perspective than outside. And that goes for South Africa as well as the States. Sunscreen has been so well marketed that many people never go outside without it, but that decreases your vitamin D absorption. Vitamin D deficiency can impede normal childhood development, loss of bone and muscle strength in the elderly, deterioration of blood sugar control in diabetics, and an increased risk for developing certain cancers. So there's some of the vitamin D deficiencies that affect your brain, your respiration, your pancreas, your circulation, your muscle, and your bone. Infants and children are at greatest risk of deficiency, and it is essential for normal development, yet deficiency can occur when the breastfeeding mother isn't getting sufficient vitamin D from foods or sunlight. People have become increasingly intolerant to sunlight, and they rapidly develop sunburn for two reasons. First, they aren't outside enough to develop a tan, and your tan is what's protecting you. And second, they have insufficient intake of antioxidants, especially the fat-soluble ones from fruits and veggies, read carotenoids, and this leads to burning instead of tanning. Lack of antioxidants also increases the risk of developing skin cancer with prolonged exposure to sunlight. Infants with vitamin D deficiency look plump and well-fed, but their muscles are flabby and development is impaired, and digestive upsets are common, and excessive scalp sweating is common. Symptoms are often accompanied by pain when hair is brushed or gently pulled. In adults, vitamin D has been shown to trigger a digestive tract enzyme that destroys a cancer-causing substance in bile, and this is known as lithocholic acid. And vitamin D therefore decreases the risk of colon cancer. And these are some of the good sources of vitamin D, which are mushrooms, eggs, milk, fatty fish, and fortified yogurt. And we can see from that that vegans or vegetarians will have a bit of a problem getting everything that they need. Vitamin D also decreases the risk of developing an autoimmune disease in both young and old. And immune cells developing where vitamin D is adequately supplied are less likely to engage in autoimmune activity or attack one's own body, because that is exactly what autoimmunity is. Tooth loss in the elderly is 25% higher when vitamin D is lower, due to the decreased ability of the immune system to respond to gum infections. Vitamin D appears to reduce the risk of colon, breast, and prostate cancers. Vitamin D appears to be very helpful to diabetics. The greater the vitamin D levels, the more insulin sensitive a person is, which is more effective than many anti-diabetes drugs. And as we've seen during this COVID situation, those with the highest vitamin D levels had the lowest risk and the lowest side effects of COVID. Research is showing that optimal vitamin D levels are 800 to 1,000, sorry, I should read 1,000, 800 to 1,000 in IU in fair-skinned people and up to 2,000 IU in dark-skinned people, because the darker the skin, the less vitamin D they absorb. Cod liver oil is an excellent source of vitamin D. And vitamin D is fat-soluble and therefore potentially toxic in excess doses orally, while sunlight exposure poses no such risk. Again, the body will utilize what it needs. Suggestions: expose the skin to reasonable amounts of sunlight. Supplement with cod liver oil or a multiple with vitamin D. And I just put together a few things over here. Formula 4 has got 100 IU of vitamin D. Vitamin A and D, which we note as vitamin A and D in the States, it's called cod liver oil, has 400 IU. And CalMag contains 500 IU in 3 tablets. So remember, read the fine print. Each tablet only contains 166 IU, but if you're taking all 3, you will get your 500 IU. So by looking at that, remembering what else you are taking, because as in all cases, supplements are exactly that, in conjunction to. So if your diet is high in vitamin D already, you probably don't need to supplement with the vitamin A and D. And the Neolife Shake contains 140 IU. So if you're having all of those every day, you're getting quite a healthy dose of vitamin D. And now we're getting onto the lower leg. And I see this situation fairly regularly, often accompanied by swollen legs. And it's discoloration of the lower leg skin. This is usually a slowly spreading brownish reddish or occasional yellowish discoloration of the skin of the lower legs. And it can be just around the foot and ankle, or it can be higher up the legs as well. This is often an early warning sign of the development of adult onset diabetes, otherwise known as type 2 diabetes. The discoloration results from the deterioration of the circulatory system, which accompanies blood sugar irregularities. Circulation is damaged by glycosylation, which is a process in which sugars bond with protein in blood vessels, which damages their integrity, and therefore the circulation. A high blood sugar surge also interferes with vitamin C utilization. Looks like I need to do spell check more often. Vitamin C is not just an antioxidant. It is also a key component of the connective tissue and plays an important role in the health of the blood vessels and skin. And it's very good to help your body to create collagen, which is the elasticity that you get in your skin and the blood vessels. The diabetic is at risk of ketone poisoning and needs to know the early warning signs of this condition. Signs that mark early ketoacidosis, and these include things like feeling tired and sleepy, etc. I won't go into them in detail right now, but it's sleepiness, it's fatigue, so the constant feeling of tiredness and exhaustion. It almost goes so far as to say COVID exhaustion. They are constantly thirsty, and as a result, they frequently urinate. But their skin dries out as well as their tongue. They have digestive difficulties, including nausea. They have leg cramps, and this is where we're going to be getting into just now. And they have a funny odor to the breath, which is similar to nail polish remover. This results from acetone, which is where the ketoacidosis comes from. And I've experienced this quite often with people. You almost in a crowd of people, or you're around somebody, and I have this, I can smell this overwhelming smell of nail polish remover, and it makes my breath catch because sometimes it's so powerful. You know that's somebody who's a diabetic. Suggestions: reduce the intake of refined carbohydrates, supplement with antioxidants such as vitamin C, D, and E. And test for possible diabetic condition. Please, if you even suspect that you might be diabetic, please consult your physician or your GP as soon as possible for them to do the correct tests, because diabetes is a nasty. The earlier you get it, the better you can control it through diet. And our leg cramps. And if anybody's ever experienced leg cramps, I know, Linda, you do, and you're going to tell us a good story shortly. Hopefully we can still get you before power goes off. And this is cramps in the legs, the bottom of the foot, or other muscle twitching. And if I've gone for a 5K run and I haven't drank enough water, I get a cramp and it's not fun. This sign may indicate deficiencies of calcium, magnesium, vitamin B complex, vitamin E, C, or omega-3 oils. All of these are recommended, and you'll often find your athletes need more of these things because of this dehydration. Surprising number of nutrients are associated with leg or other muscle cramping. So it's not just a simple cramp, it's a combination of a lot of other things. Any muscle cramping or twitching should be checked out properly. So find out the cause of the problem. Because remember, your heart is also muscle. And if it cramps, well, go and speak to Jenny about the CPR part because it's not fun. Calcium and magnesium are primary nutrients for muscle function. Calcium causes muscles to contract, while magnesium is essential for relaxation. And as we know with the heart, contracts, releases, countless times from basically the time that the heart starts to beat, which is one of the first things that happens in baby, right to the day that your heart cramps and doesn't uncramp and you don't need it anymore. Deficiency of both is common, although magnesium is a more frequent deficiency because calcium is often supplemented. Doctors know about calcium, most people know about calcium, so they always supplement with calcium, but they forget about the magnesium. We need to educate people on this. Both minerals, but especially magnesium, frequently relieve muscle cramping. And this mineral has been proven to alleviate leg cramps in pregnancy. And there's a lot of reasons why you cramp up in pregnancy, but one of them is because, as I said earlier, that little body is sucking out all of your minerals out of your skeleton and your muscles. And research indicates that leg cramps may be caused by acute deficiencies of sodium or magnesium. Diuretics, pharmaceutical or dietary diuretics, such as caffeine, may contribute to depletion of both sodium and magnesium. Sodium being salt, just by the way. Phosphoric acid in sodas and phosphates in baking powders combine with magnesium in foods, creating insoluble magnesium phosphate, which cannot be absorbed. This contributes to a deficiency of magnesium. Magnesium deficiency can be induced or intensified by a high intake of calcium when magnesium intake is low. Correct ratio needs to be 2:1, 2 parts calcium to 1 part magnesium. Signs of magnesium deficiency include irregular heartbeat, numbness and tingling, sweating, rapid heartbeat, mild to severe confusion, disorientation, hallucinations, and paranoia. These are quite nasty things, but they're also signs of a lot of other things, but it could be a simple magnesium deficiency. Depletion may result from illness, diarrhea, high sugar or alcohol content, and with your alcoholics, they're having a lot of alcohol, which includes a lot of sugar, or unbalanced diets. There's a little test that they can do, and let me get my picture out of the way. A fairly reliable indication of magnesium deficiency is a thing called Chvostek's sign. And as the picture shows, you simply tap next to your ear, basically, and you'll see if there's a contraction of the muscles in your face. You can do that later. And this is a contraction of the muscles on one side of the face, which can be triggered by tapping just in front of the ear and just below the zygomatic bone, which is this bone over here, if you can see me. And you tap there, and you see if your face goes, then you know you've got a problem. This sign may also indicate low calcium. So if in doubt, again, consult your GP, let them do blood tests, let them work out where you are low. Vitamin B complex plays a significant role in preventing muscle cramping. Vitamins B1 and B6 help muscle cramps in pregnancy. And vitamin E in the ratio or in the amounts of between 400 to 800 IU. In other words, if you're taking our vitamin E, that is 2 to 4 capsules have been shown to prevent cramping. Patients who have cirrhosis often find relief from leg cramps with antioxidants, taurine, and zinc. Suggestions: avoid excess intake of sugar and phosphates. You need to take essential fatty acids, including omega-3 oils, and this will sometimes alleviate cramping by improving utilization of other nutrients. So it's almost a bringing together of everything else. And as we know, our omega-3 has got all 8 of the omegas. And then we need to supplement with calcium, magnesium, and B complex vitamins, because we don't always know which B is low. So if you take a B complex, your body will be able to use what it needs. And there is our amazing new magnesium. I don't know about you, but I've been finding some very good results with that. And we need to supplement with antioxidants. And we, as I've gone through before, what those antioxidants are, check it out. And that is the end of my talk. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask Linda if she can tell us her story. I think she's bombed out. There she is. There she is. Go for it, Linda.
Dawn, I don't think there's enough. There's not enough time.
No, we've got 7 minutes.
You know,
we've got 7 minutes.
It's a long journey of gradually overcoming it.
Okay, we've got 7 minutes. You can go.
You're sure we've got 7 minutes?
Yes, my timer tells me.
My clock says nearly 10 past. Okay,
okay.
Great. My 35-year journey of overcoming feet and leg cramps, I made notes because it was not a quick fix. And otherwise, I would be even longer than 4 minutes. In my early 40s, I started having horrific feet and leg cramps, very, very bad at night. During winter, even just sitting in a chair, my feet were absolutely cold up and very, very sore, and I had to rub it continuously, even though I was warmly dressed. That's how bad it was. Eventually, I went to a doctor who suggested that I get Barocco calcium. It's a tablet, fizzy drink, very refreshing, but it didn't have magnesium. Of course, I didn't know anything about those things. There was a slight improvement, but still quite bad. I used that product for years. I kept my legs and feet warm at night, slept with warm things, but bad cramping still. In my late 40s, I got pins and needles in and lameness in my left arm. X-ray showed spurs on my vertebrae, which I later found was from the wrong calcium. There's many lessons in my testimony, but I can't go into all the lessons, of course, now. I had to wear a neck brace, which was terribly uncomfortable. And yeah, especially when driving, it was horrible. At 50, I joined New Life and used our safe CalMag, calcium and magnesium, and of course, omega-3 and all the other supplements, vitamin A and D and all the rest. A huge improvement, and my arm got better, but not sure what happened to the spurs, how it disappeared, but even my arm was fine then. But still got the odd cramps at night with even warm leggings and socks. Just have to wake up at night, walk around, rub my leg. Oh, it was horrible, always disturbed my sleep. It could happen 3 times at the night. A few years later, I added a multimineral for the phosphorus and the potassium, and I had used more salt, more sodium. There was more improvement, especially after I added the multimineral. And I always followed a healthy diet. Then I added vitamin E for circulation, but I was not terribly disciplined with that. Anyways, okay, I'm not going to go into that. I took it now and then, but I'm more disciplined now. I drank a lot of water. I read up a lot, so I did try to do all the right things. And now I add an additional magnesium to my CalMag and multimineral at night. And it is really nearly perfect. I may get the unpleasant, I sometimes get the unpleasant surprise once in a blue moon, in the middle of the night, especially if I must be very careful how I move my legs. I always had to watch my leg movement. So I do leg exercises. I do more walking. I walk up and down in our complex, terribly boring, but I have to do that. Just have to do everything for more circulation and strengthening, apart from my leg exercises in the morning. Then to end off, I will just say, why did I battle so much? There must be reasons. Mineral deficiencies, so that is very obvious. I had my 3 goals over a short period of time, the one on top of the other. No supplements those years. Okay, now I'm nearly finished. Thank you. No supplements those years. But anyways, I'll go through that cramping again for my wonderful goals. Maybe because my mother and her 3 sisters had terrible osteoporosis. Deficiencies, of course, and my mom had 7 children. The other sisters, not so many. But yeah, my mother was a wreck. So it could have been genetic. I'm not very strong on genetics, but you know, it could have been from there because I was exceptionally deficient. And I mean, you listen now what all the things that I used and what I try to do. And it's only now very recently that I can say I may have a cramp, say once a month or once in 3 weeks or so, or a jerk or a spasm, whatever you call all these horrible things. And it's very painful still if I get it. Why the spurs on my vertebrae? Now this is a big thing. After joining New Life and I learned about, I'm nearly there, safe supplements, I realized it was the calcium carbonate, which is like a limestone substance, and I took it for so long. So today I'm very serious, been speaking to women about safe quality calcium supplements and of course other mineral supplements. I do a lot of research on this and I've wrote an article, I'd sent emails to my people on supplements, on calcium supplements. And yeah, this is very, very important for not taking the wrong stuff. That calcium carbonate it's horrible, the dolomite, all those things makes deposit in your bodies. I can't go into that now, all the wrong things that can happen from that. So I will leave my story there. Thank you for the opportunity. I thought, yes, there's a few things here to learn. It's not always a quick fix. Mine was definitely not a quick fix.
Correct.
And I tried from the beginning. Okay.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Yes, and you'll often hear doctors say you shouldn't take too much calcium because it causes hardening of the arteries or arteriosclerosis, which is the fancy term. And as you saw, the little what we call osteophytes or calcification in the joints. But the thing is, it's not the calcium, it's the type of calcium. And that's where the problem comes in. And this is where we need to educate people because sadly, most of the calcium supplements that you will find in the pharmacies and even the health shops that the doctors recommend are calcium carbonate. And when I talk to my patients about that, I say, go down to the local, we've got Walton's or any of your places that sell chalk, and buy yourself a box of chalk and eat that because it's probably a lot cheaper, but it's the same sort of calcium that you're getting. That is bad for you. Our calcium, obviously being chelated, has about an 80% plus absorption rate. Your body can utilize it without storing excess in the joints. So our time is up. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Linda, for your contribution. It was brilliant.
Thank you, Sean, for your talk.
And as we go through this, I will be asking some more.
Really good.
Sorry, Don, we didn't have time for you tonight, but I will ask you again another time. Because I know you've got a story as well.
Thank you, Sean.
All right.
Okay.
Tomorrow
Bye,
evening,
everybody.
we have Liz
Bye, everyone.
talking.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.